I just got off a value alignment meeting with a builder. And one of the first things he said to me was, the landscaping trade is one of the only trades that he has not been able to forge a solid relationship with, where he's constantly let down. And at first I thought, all right, yes, I want to show him that landscapers can be good. And then I thought to myself, maybe there's an alignment issue. And I thought about my experience with builders over the past couple of decades, and it has been a challenging one. I would say 9 out of 10 builders we don't align with. And it's really hard. We do a lot of quoting for builders, but we don't do a lot of building for builders. They typically want someone a lot cheaper. And I think that's the lack of alignment I'll talk about. And the builders or the developers that we do have good working relationships with are the bigger, higher end builders who are doing like a handful of high end, multi-million dollar builds per year. And they're busy focusing on what they know. And they really want to be able to hand off to an expert in the landscaping world, because we're not like an electrician where it's a one trade specialty. We are a general contractor of the exterior. And God, I don't want to limit it, but I've counted 14 trades that we use on a regular basis. And so if a general contractor who's building the house is then managing us, or if he's not allowing us to do our job, it gets really challenging. So it's two obstacles for us to have a successful working relationship with builders. One is just alignment on project control. So if the builder is wanting to micro manage and control the landscaping, it can work if they are like experts in the landscaping field, but nearly all of them really have zero passion for landscaping and not a lot of knowledge for landscaping. And so when they're trying to control it, it really minimizes the impact we can have. And a lot of them will also try and shelter the communication with the client. And this really just doesn't set us up for success, because we're trying to work and design and build something that the client's going to love. And so we need that direct contact. And the big thing that comes to my mind is trust. The builder needs to be able to trust their landscaper. Now, I know that's not always easy. It's not always easy to earn someone's trust. It's not always easy to give you trust. And so that's why we focus on building relationships and focus on trying to do right by all of the builders and the clients that we do work with, because trust is fundamental. If we have a builder's trust, then they put us in connection with the client. And then we're designing and working with the client directly, which aids our communication. But when a builder is trying to manage the communication, and then they want to do the concrete, they want to do the excavation, they want to do all the carpentry components, and they expect us to just come in and do maybe the paving, maybe the Allen block wall and the softscaping. Just really, they take a good portion of the work and leave us with what they consider to be true, authentic landscaping. And it doesn't work for a company like us. I don't think you'll ever establish a working relationship with a landscaper when that's the case, because it's got to be worth it for the landscaper. And if any company is established, they have their processes, they have their management, they have their systems, and there is a job size and a scale that makes sense to a company like that. And so any company that's got dialed processes and systems needs a decent sized project in order to make it make sense. And then if we're just coming in to hit up this scope and hit up that scope, you're looking at your small, very small / owner operator type business. And obviously they come and they go, and their reliability isn't proven, and their processes and systems isn't dialed, and they don't have that sort of integrity that a lot of businesses have to have, because they don't have that online presence. And so it's really about the builder understanding what they're after. And if they're after just someone to come in and do it cheaply, then they're not going to get, that's fine, but they're not going to get someone who's reliable and consistent that they can build a relationship with. And they have to also ask themselves, what does the client want? And a lot of the time they're trying to shelter their budget. So as they put a proposal together for the build of the house, they might put in a landscaping budget of $100,000. And then so the client is expecting $100,000. Now, when they get a quote and it's $300,000, now they're like, oh my God, I have to save face. I have to get this down to $100,000. And it gets into complicated conversations. Is the fencing in the landscaping budget? Is the concrete in the landscaping budget? Is the excavation in the landscaping budget? Like, what is in the landscaping budget? But instead of handing over to the experts, they try and control that. And that is what that's a lot of the conversations I actually have with our clients or to be clients is, all right, you think it's going to cost you 100 grand, but what you've told me you want actually comes to $300,000. So let's have this conversation. Do you really want what you've told me you want? And if you do, are you going to increase your budget to 300 grand? Or do we need to compromise and take away some of the things on the like list, the nice to have? And let's look at the need to have list. Now that need to have list, we can probably get closer to 100 grand. But if you want everything else, it's going to be 300 grand. And so then we work with them through this process and we guide them on where they can save money, what materials they should like compromise on that save a lot of money, but don't compromise a lot of longevity or quality. And then we work with them to achieve that budget. If the builder's in the way of letting us do that with a client, we can never get there.
Yeah. When it comes to the budget, and you say that the home builder will put a budget of $100,000 and then they'll go out to tender typically for the landscapers. Is there a better time in the process for the home builder to bring the landscape company on board? Should they be doing it at the beginning?
Yeah, you're right. They do. I don't know if there is really look, in the ideal world, when we're dealing with like multi-year builds, yes, the landscape. And if you're thinking, and if you're dealing with people with big budgets that really value their landscaping, there are organizations that will start with the landscape design first and then move into the house. Now that's a dream scenario. We're not there at all. And when a builder is bidding on a project, they they have to just choose a number for the landscape ultimately. They really do, because they don't have a landscape design. And even as they're tendering out, they're halfway through the build and thinking about the landscaping now, a lot of the time they don't have a landscape design. And so they're still just like dealing with random guessed numbers. Or landscape will come by and be like, oh yeah, we can do this for 100 grand. Another one will come by, but yeah, we can do this for 80. Someone else will come by, but yeah, we'll do this for 200 grand. Now they think the 200 grand is expensive, but what are they actually getting? They don't even know. It's not dialed. None of the decisions that have been focused on. And so they need to move into the design process first. And quite often the designs we do get from builders are like a 2D design, concept design that doesn't have really many decisions made, and it hasn't been done with the client's desires in mind. It's just been done to facilitate the survey process. That doesn't help anyone. Doesn't help anyone because it's not what the client wants. So what I advise the home builder doing is actually working with us at an earlier stage, introduce us to the client and let us work with the builder, let us work with the homeowner to create a design that is in line with what they actually really want. And if it's above the budget, let us work with them on that. We can find ways to get it down. We can find ways to shave them. Maybe, you know what, the client actually wants to spend 300 grand and not 100 grand because they actually want these things. They just didn't know it was possible. So once they know it's possible and they can see the value of it and they can see what it would feel like to be in that space through our 3D designs, that's quite often when budgets go up into the range where the builder may not have thought possible.
And with these large landscape design build projects, there's normally some work that gets done to the house as well, like adding on the pergola or adding on the deck. How does collaboration work when the homeowner is looking for something like that?
Yeah, well, there's a perfect house I'm thinking of. It's got this big, glorious, beautiful home, the backyard patio. It's got the extension of the house roof is the covered space in the back. And that is typically something that builders will always do. But it's got this beautiful covered area. And then the rest of the landscape is just discombobulated and does not flow and is not very usable and is not nice and does not make any sense whatsoever. And so that's a really clear transition point for me. If it would be nice if we did the patio, like paved the patio and were involved in conversations about material choices. But like the ideal scenario is that the home builder has that beautiful design. They
Mhm.
send it to us halfway through their build or earlier. And we then create a landscape design to show we can see what it's going to be, what it's going to look like. And then we can be involved in all of the materials choices. So when they step out of their interior and they're hitting their landscape, that it actually feels of the quality that it should, instead of just using a concrete paver, which is the case. So you got this $3-4 million home, and then you got this really cheap concrete paver that they step out to for the outdoor living. It makes no sense. So yeah, like more cohesion between the design process is really what's needed if someone cares about adding maximum value to their like investment.
Yeah, because you want it to feel like an extension of the home when you're spending that much on your house and you're bringing in a design build company. You definitely want to feel like you're just in your home, but outside.
The way I think about it, I imagine the clients are in their socks and they're walking around their nice kitchen floor or whatever it is, and they open the French doors and they walk outside. Now, if you walked on a concrete paver with socks on, your socks can like stick to it. It's not very nice in material. But if you walk out there on a nice high quality porcelain tile or like a composite decking board, it feels like you're still dealing with an interior quality. So I always think about the sock test. How does it feel when you're walking out there with socks on? Do you need to actually put shoes on because there's no cover? Are you going to get wet? So like my ideal living space means you can go between the two, indoor and outdoor, with your socks on. That's how I gauge successful indoor outdoor cohesion.
That's not anything I've ever thought of, but I like it.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to a homeowner who has signed on with, or even maybe before they've signed on with, they're looking to build a house? What advice would you give to them about everyone working together, about the landscaping, about the build process?
Yeah. The first advice I'd give them is it's their decision. They hold all the power on who they choose. The second is to be aware of the interests that the builder has. Do they have an interest in choosing their own landscaper? Is there kickbacks that the client isn't aware of? Is there more interest if the home builder is going to do all the concrete work and build the fence and do the excavating? Is that because they're best at it? Or is that because they want their share, more of their share? There's no issue with it, but as long as it's transparent and as long as the homeowner, so my advice to homeowner builders are going to hate me on this, but my advice to the homeowners is just be aware of how the game is played. And so now you're aware, you make the decisions, you hold the power, you know that most builders are just trying to maximize their share. So what's important to you? Is it supporting the builder and giving them what they want? Or would you rather work with a specialist in that area to create something that you love? Now, the answer is going to be different based on what are your intentions. Are you building for an investment purpose and you want to do it? It's sort of fairly economically and cheaply. Or are you building this for like a retirement or something your family can enjoy for the next 10 years? And if it's one of the later two options there, you got to work with a specialist. You've work with someone who can really hold your hand through the whole entire process, the design process, the estimating process, and the build process. And you want the cohesion between everything that gets done on the exterior. It needs a cohesion. If I can walk onto a property and be like, all right, so whoever did the concrete, I can always see when the builder did the concrete or the landscaper did the concrete. It's whether the heights work. It's whether there's drainage issues. It's like quality of the concrete for one, even though builders can definitely do good quality concrete for sure. You can see how it all well, like meshes together. And so it can be quite discombobulated when different people are involved doing different things. And warranty gets a little bit complicated as well, because if someone else did the excavation and there's a drainage issue, well, it should have been resolved in the excavation. Not always, but very likely. And so advice again to the homeowner is, do you want spread out warranties or do you want one warranty? And so if something is to happen with the landscape, you want to call your landscaper who says, hey, look, you did this whole entire thing. Can you come back and deal with it? And we'll say, yeah, of course.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice. Why
Mm.
collaboration between the home builder and the landscaper important?
Collaboration between the home builder and the landscaper is absolutely pivotal to the client getting the best result. The home builder needs to rely on the specialty service, the specialty knowledge of the landscaper to create a design with the client that the client's going to love.
How do you get alignment between the home builder and the landscaper?
Alignment between the home builder and the landscaper, put simply, the values need to align. The way we're shaped as a landscaping company needs to support what the home builder wants. For example, Highland wants a home builder who is really about doing the best possible service and products for the homeowner and who is busy and needs to be able to hand off to be able to have the landscape taken care of headache free. There are a lot of builders out there that need that. They don't know who to go to in order to make that happen. They've tried it before, it hasn't worked out. So there's a lot of home builders that have been burnt by landscapers. And again, the trust, it's all about the trust. And so we do initially, when we start working with home builders, they're quite involved with the first client or the second client until we've got that trust, and then they have hands off. And then they're like, all right, Mike, you go in there and meet with the client. I can't make it. It's all over to you. That's the ideal process.